take us through, starting last Monday from Doc Rivers' house in Malibu through a meeting in Westlake, how this all went down.
Well, I think it even starts before that, right? Even before free agency, when Kawhi Leonard reaches out to Kevin Durant and asks him, it was kind of on the eve of when Durant was, really thinking about going to Brooklyn. He was, was just literally waiting for the time when he could. The Warriors were going to make one last pitch at him, but it was, it was Brooklyn. Like, they had that in their heads, him and Kyrie and DeAndre Jordan. And he gets a call from Kawhi Leonard. And it was described to me from multiple sources on this is that it's really surprising. Like, Kevin didn't know what to make of it. Like, wow, Kawhi's calling me and asking if I want to go play with the Clippers with him. And I think that kind of is the first tip-off of where his head was at. Mm-hmm. I mean, free agency hasn't even started yet. And he's calling Kevin Durant to see if they can go play together on the Clippers. It kind of sounds like that's what he was trying to make happen the whole time. And if we go all the way back to last year, when he asked for a trade from San Antonio, he wanted to go to the LA teams. And I think the only thing that threw all of us off really was, boy, he won the title he won the title for Toronto. He had a real brotherhood with the guys there. He had a great bond with the franchise, with Masai Ujiri and Alex McKechnie, Nick Nurse, like a lot of the players on the team. That was all real. And yet, ultimately, when it comes down to where do you want to spend the next 4 or 5 years of your life, you have to fly above that, and you have to kind of think about your whole life. And it came down to, do you want to be with the Lakers or the Clippers? And, look, the only guy who knows where he would have gone if the Clippers don't pull this trade off is Kawhi Leonard. He's really, I've heard subsequently, and I think, Bruce Arthur wrote a really nice column with Raptors sources saying they sort of felt like they were third place, once they met with him and they got the vibe. They felt like that in the last few days. It was just hard to make of it, know what to make of it, because he was in Toronto. So he goes and he meets the Clippers Monday night in Malibu. He switches the Laker meeting from El Segundo, which is down by LAX Airport, which is kind of like South Bay, Los Angeles at all, and switches it to the Four Seasons Hotel up in Westlake Village, which is much closer to Malibu, but also much closer to where he was going to meet Paul George later that day.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's the real interesting timing on this.
So Ramona Shelburne is an ESPN NBA insider. Ramona, the meeting with Paul George is obviously important, and we just talked about this for a moment. At what point does it become dirty pool for an NBA player to talk to a player who's under contract to another team and say, get traded to come here, and then I'll sign with them?
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are wrestling with, right? A lot of it's for fans who is on the team where he leaves, right? It's really upsetting. For who both teams leave, right? For Toronto, for Oklahoma City, for everyone involved there. But it's also kind of the way of the world. So on what level can you stop that? Players have always recruited players. We all, and ultimately you wait a long time to become a free agent. And Kawhi Leonard wanted to be a free agent, and so there's some level of it is their lives, it is their careers. I mean, you and I get to choose where we work, and
but if we're under contract, I guess my point, Ramona, is if I wake up in Oklahoma City on Saturday morning and I'd say, why is my team getting wrecked because Kawhi Leonard wanted to sign with the Clippers?
I know. I agree with you. I think that's kind of rough for them to swallow. But I will say this. I do think Oklahoma City was thinking about, doing something like that before he even asked. I think that team had probably one more run in them. And, they were already kind of looking to make moves. There had been a lot out there about Steven Adams and Andre Robertson and things like that. But I know that they had considered trading Westbrook and George before all this because of where that team sat, and they weren't going to get much for anybody else. If you're going to change that team around, you kind of needed a big jolt. Then Paul was probably the one who had the most value anyway.
Right.
Still, I get where you're coming from. I mean, when you sign a contract, you should honor that contract. But I kind of think that we're in this day and age where, a lot of people break their contracts. People do it all the time, and it's not kosher. It's not the way, I like to live. You probably like to live, but this is a new thing in the NBA, and I know that there's a lot of owners, especially small market owners, who are not happy about it at all. And I think it does get addressed in a much more serious way in the new collective bargaining agreement, but also with the league. Like they're having league meetings right now, and I expect that to be a main topic of conversation because it really wrecks your franchise. I mean, when players ask for a trade, they got, Anthony Davis got fined $50,000.
Walking around money for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Well, and Ramona, I guess that's the thing. It's like an incurable epidemic. I mean, Doc Rivers got fined $50,000 for fondly, comparing Kawhi Leonard to Michael Jordan in a playoff preview TV show.
Yeah.
But as somebody said to me, like that's not a fine. The Clippers see that as an investment, right? And the investment seems to pay off.
I think, but Ramona, correct me if I'm wrong. It's one thing to say that guy's a great player and to praise him. It's another to reach out to someone who's under contract to another team. LeBron did it.
Sure, he did
with Davis.
Oh, yeah.
We know that. At what point would the NBA say, "Sorry, that trade's voided"?
I don't think we're anywhere close to that because I think the NBA doesn't want to get into the business of policing what players do. Text messaging and free speech and whatever it is. But there is some discussion to be had about the whole issue because, for the most part, this whole tampering thing is just it's like having a good accountant on your taxes, it's like, it's kind of silly with this whole, everybody committing within, it's like free agency now, right? There's free agency and free agency. Like, I think we've got to switch the timing. Like, it needs to go before the draft. And probably free agency should just start right after the season is over. Like, right after the finals, you should be just free to talk to anybody because we're just pretending that people don't talk. We're pretending that all this tampering doesn't go on. But it's like, this is the normal course of business, and this is why the league was trying to make such an example of Magic Johnson, which actually was a little ridiculous because, he got praised for saying Giannis was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember that was, he got fined for saying that. And I don't know. I think the only thing you can do is just try to be a little more realistic about the way of the world and stop trying to, selectively enforce things because then it just makes people mad when you don't enforce it.
Yeah, so Ramona, obviously, incredible turn of events in L.A. What does this do to the dynamic of the L.A. sports scene now that the Clippers are, if not, equals, they're certainly worthy rivals of the historically entrenched Lakers?
Oh, it's going to be really interesting because I think you can make an argument the Clippers are better in the sense that they have much more of a team around them. This is a playoff team last year, and they traded their young point guard who was still a prospect. I think he's really good. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's a Canadian. You guys probably know him, right?
Oh yeah.
But he's a really good player. But he wasn't like a huge contributor for them last year. I mean, he had moments, right? But the guy they'll miss Gallinari. He was one of their best players all year. But the rest of the team is still fairly intact. So I think you got to give them the edge, and just in terms of. You have a ready-made team. It's almost like when Kawhi joined the Raptors last year. That was a ready-made team for him to join. He just, they might be better. The only question is Paul George is probably going to miss the first couple of weeks of the year. He's still recovering from shoulder surgery, so that's a thing, right? I mean, it takes a little while to blend everybody together. I don't know if you guys know Doc Rivers, but he's going to be amazing coaching this team. It's like just the idea of Doc with this amount of talent on a team that he already had playing a certain way. I'm excited to see it. The Lakers, I think the duo of LeBron and Anthony Davis might be like the best fit possible. Like if you would just design a player for LeBron to play with, it might be Anthony Davis, just skill set wise. But they just have a hastily assembled team of guys on one and one plus one contracts that's going to have to spend the first quarter of the year trying to play together, trying to learn how to play together. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if if you don't live in Los Angeles, you don't understand this. Like, as much as the Clippers are a huge story for what they were able to pull off, it is still a Laker town, and it always will be unless the Clippers win a title. And even if they win a title, they're 15 titles behind.